I appreciate the education, like, and the formal education, but I don't think that I enjoyed it that much, to be
No?
honest. No, like, and this differs from person to person. I think that it's necessary. I definitely think that, you know, like, formal education is something like that gives you the overall view and overall knowledge of everything. Like you mentioned before we started talking, like on the podcast, you mentioned traveling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see traveling as the same thing. It doesn't give you like the specific knowledge on something or like specific thing, specific tool, but it just makes you a more like well-rounded person.
Yeah.
And I think that with education is the same thing. I
Mm.
recommend everyone reading the book Range by David Epstein. This book is kind of like the representation of what I very briefly said here, which means that looking at all the data and all the things, people that specialize early actually don't achieve in general such a success as people who are more kind of like generalists and then attempt many times with their specialization. It was very interesting for me to read about different areas of life where it applies not only to sport and to physical activity, but also to like economy, to, you know, to art, I think, even like to musicians.
Interesting.
Usually these people don't like choose the, you know, like their subject or like their instrument, and they just grind through it a lot. There's only some aspects of like some areas of life where it works, like in sports, maybe golf, or like maybe chess, right? So like stable environment promotes that. But anything else that is like less stable, that is less predictable, it actually benefits from you being just overly educated, trained in many different fields, many different ways, and that gives you the additional benefit in when you actually do your specific thing. And I think that education in school is very important for that reason. I don't think that, you know, like quitting school and starting a business is something that I would be grateful for if I did. I'm very glad that I did with the normal way, because you just like have these overall, just like traveling, just like you mentioned before. Yes, like this is my current stance on this topic. But myself, I did not enjoy school that much so far.
So you don't feel like you could learn the same things from like from the internet, for example? Like there, as you mentioned, dropping out of school and starting a business, you wouldn't be satisfied with that. But there are a lot of people who turn out very successful who don't have a college degree, who study, you know, by themselves.
Yeah, like obviously, first of all, when I talk about it, I'm no one qualified to talk about it, so this is just only my opinion. But what I think personally is that yes, there are people like that, but remember that always when you hear this kind of story, you hear this story, but you don't hear like stories of people who did go that route and they did
failed.
not succeed.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
all, you're gonna only hear about success stories. So that's first thing. Second thing, you mentioned college. I think that college is like optional. So college is not something that, you know, like, so if you want to do something like with more like more specific, something that requires a lot of expertise, then most of the times college is beneficial. Not always. Like if you want to be physical therapist, or you want to be medical doctor, or you want to be lawyer, you have to do that. If you want to be someone who, you know, like do some freelancing work for editing, for example, I'm pretty sure that you don't need it and that you can learn it yourself. But we talk about college here, so it's something that is more, you know, optional. I would still say that college might have a lot of benefits, like outside of that, maybe like social benefits. And And but if we talk about like earlier education, I would say that people who drop out will be like massive outliers if they achieve success. Um, and I may be wrong again, but this is just my stance on that. But it's a very interesting subject, very interesting topic. Um, but I myself am grateful for going with the classic route of like having, normal education, choosing my degree and just pursuing it so far. But maybe it's something that could go the other way and I would be more successful. Nobody knows.
No, I definitely think like the lower education, or what is it called, like primary school, the
Or like, yeah.
first 10 years of school that everybody goes through. I think those are probably pretty important because they help shape your interest, because there's so many different topics, so many classes of different types that really help you get general knowledge, which I feel like is very important from a young age. Where I kind of I'm not sure what my stance on it, but I feel like a lot that can be learned through education from the upper education can definitely be learned online nowadays. I could be completely wrong.
I think that you're not wrong. If you look at that in a very specific way, from a very like specific point of view, because yes, like I'm pretty sure that every single thing that you could learn, you could also read about and learn yourself. But and again, like I'm not disagreeing. I think that our stance on that is pretty similar in terms of that primary school and like the earlier education system is very important, and then it's kind of like more optional. But I would still say that I know myself that if I was given 5 years where I must study myself all the subjects, I'm not sure if I did that. Like I'm not sure that I
see what you
would
mean, yeah.
go through stuff that is actually uncomfortable for you, because like it's easy for me to learn something that I'm interested in, but the nature of any subject is that you have to go through things that are not that interesting or are not that motivating. Like you don't have so much self-determination for that, like intrinsic motivation. And for these things, it's very beneficial, I think, to have some sort of outside pressure on you, especially if these things are like important, like in like medical school or something. So it's probably very complex subject, very nuanced, very multi-dimensional.
Definitely.
But that's what I would say for like at least right now. I think that it's still beneficial.
Yeah, and I guess also to say something positive about school, there's also, the curriculum. And maybe if you studied on your own, you might not know what you don't know. So you might not be aware of what you'd have to look into and what you'd have to study. Whereas in school, there's the set curriculum. They know exactly what you'll be taught.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can always get back to that. You can always, like even if you kind of like go through that very just to pass and just to like get this degree, you always have some sort of like way behind you. So you always have something that you went through, and that you could let's say that you consider doing later on, also like choosing to go into that subject. You have some literature. Yeah, there are many benefits. And obviously for some jobs or for some like areas of life, maybe that's not the case. Maybe I'm a bit biased because of like what I'm doing, and because of also like in my family there's like many people went into science, so maybe that's why maybe that's why I'm biased towards it. Maybe it's not the case for many subjects.
And I feel like I might be a bit of a hypocrite because I am studying, I am in school, so of course I do feel like education is beneficial for sure.